Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Melinda, and I am here with Delia. And we are excited to talk about side hustles today, all the different types of side hustles, and maybe some criteria to help you figure out where to start or to figure out whether you should stick with something or maybe just pivot. Delia has actually started a bunch of different side hustles. And so we're going to talk about some of those today and just excited to help you figure out if you should keep working on something or just figure out, wow, maybe I should go a totally different direction. So I'm going to dive right in. What is a favorite side hustle that you have ever tried?
Yeah, that's a good question. I enjoyed doing a lot of different things because of the things I learned. But if I had to choose one of the side hustles, I think I would choose the video animation service. In about 2013, 2014, somehow I discovered Fiverr. And on there you see different people who do different services. Video animation or those cartoonish animation videos were selling. A lot of people were providing the service. And I discovered this tool, the software tool that can help you animate the writing and images. They have a library of images, and you could just import the images, and then it looked like a hand was drawing the images and then the text. And I said, well, let me do this too. Like, I have no idea why I chose it. I am not a graphic person. If my life depended on it, I would be in big trouble. But I said, oh, let me try it. And
Yeah.
I posted my service. And somehow I got those first initial jobs. One thing led to another. I ended up posting on Craigslist and other platforms, got clients who paid me 20, 30, 50 times more than I got paid on Fiverr. And that's how I kind of built a side hustle. And I made quite a bit of money off of it. I ended up choosing not to go forward with it because I was not good at video animation and creating images and all of that stuff that makes the project better. But it was fun, you know. It teaches you, at least it taught me that you can do almost anything.
Yeah.
There are probably tools out there that are gonna help you make it happen if you really want to put the time into it to learn how.
Right. Yeah, I love that you had this idea and just took action, even though you didn't necessarily have all the skills starting out. You're like, just the mindset of, I can figure this out. And I know you didn't do it forever. You decided to go a different route. How long did you do that business for?
Probably a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. It just shows it's okay to try new things, even if you're not quite sure, especially when you're first starting out. I have heard you kind of talk about a football analogy when talking about how to connect our life and business and figuring out what business to start. Could you maybe go into that and share just that connection?
Yeah, if business were a football game, and you get when you reach the end zone, you get paid when you reach the end zone. There's no
Right.
rule that you have to start at the 0 yard line. What if, right, you could start at the 50 yard line or 70 yard line or 90 yard line? You would avoid a lot of tackling, you would avoid a lot of failure, and you would make a lot more money. Let me just use an image to kind of portray this. So when we're thinking of business, right, and this is where you get paid. Um, the question I always ask myself now, because I have some skills and I've done some side hustles, I've done some businesses, I bought some businesses, right? I always look at ways to maximize and leverage what I have to be able to start on the 50 yard line, or maybe, if it's possible, even go further. And people who are listening might think, well, I've never done anything. I don't know where to start. I don't want you to focus too much on this question that you don't start. The
Yeah.
most important thing for anyone is to start, but know that there are things you can do to maximize or to leverage what you have, what you've done in the past. Thinking of the video animation side hustle that I started, if someone with graphic design skills would have started at the same time, would have gone through the same steps as me, it's very possible that person would have made a lot more money quicker because they had a skill that was really difficult for me. Those video animation require me to do drawings of or get SVG files of different cartoons. So
Hmm.
I had to go find cartoons and modify them a little bit. If I had a cartoon with a happy face, I would have to erase the happy face and make the sad face if I needed the sad face. You know,
Sure.
it was a lot more work on a non-graphic person. So
Yeah.
the graphic person might have been able to start at the 25-yard line or whatever, you know. Um, and there are different things that you can do really to advance to make it easier on yourself. If you
Sure.
really hate selling, you probably shouldn't start a side hustle that's mainly focused on selling. That the
Right.
success of that is focused on selling. Can you learn those skills? Totally. Anyone can learn almost any skill that would get you to success. But I like to think of the football analogy as like a top-down view of business, right? It's just a big picture view of business. Keep it in your mind because as you start doing things, whatever the side hustle you choose, as you start doing things, you acquire skills, then you take those skills and you can do the second side hustle much faster. So think of, I'll use another analogy. I do use a lot of analogy. So think you're on site A. This is a river, and when you get to site B is when you get paid,
Sure.
right? If you have any type of skills, you can build the bridge faster. If I am a builder, I can build the bridge faster, and then I get to the other side where I get paid. If I don't have the skills, right, it's gonna take me a while, but as I'm building the bridge, I'm building skills that then I can take and go to the second project or second business and do it faster. And then I build a second bridge much faster than the first one. So everything we do teaches us, especially failure,
Yeah.
especially failure. So that's the whole point of the analogy. It helps me because it always makes me look around for opportunities to maybe do things faster and quicker and leverage what I have. Do I make the mistake of, starting here or sometimes starting, even further away from the 0 yard line? Sometimes we do because we're scared. We don't know how to make decisions and we make it harder on ourselves. That's the benefit of being around people who have done side hustles, who have done businesses before. That's why I highly, highly recommend communities. But does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I was gonna even just dive in a little deeper of just like with your first side hustle, you had this idea and didn't have all the skills per se, but you just dove right in. Or these people who are like, oh man, what if I am starting at the 0 yard line? Just this fear of failure. I think so many of us can talk us out of our own ideas. I think a lot of us have great ideas, but we are so scared to start. Is there anything you can say just to someone who's like nervous about trying and failing and just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think all of us have been there.
Yeah.
I don't think there is an entrepreneur who is honest who would be able to say, "Oh, I've never been there." The way I look at it now is to just start. Action breeds momentum,
Yeah.
momentum breeds success. By doing things, you get to experience success. You won't be able to experience success by thinking necessarily about it. Now, it's funny because whenever we think of positive things, we actually build some energy around us that's positive, and it might help you in the process. But until you take action, you cannot build anything that is going to pay you because we all have reasons for wanting to do side hustles. We want to pay some debt. We want to make some money on the side. We want to change our job. There are some reasons that we want to start this side hustle, and we need to make some money at the end. So when I look at it, I used to be the overthinker,
Yeah.
overanalyzer. I would
I think a lot of
always
us are.
Yeah, I would always take forever to think about an idea. And I would spend all this time thinking about the step-by-step instructions. Well, what if this happens? What am I going to do then? What if that
Mhm.
happens? What am I going to do then? And I realized I lost so much money because of it. There was that fear of failure, and it took a lot of journaling and a lot of mentorship and talking to other people who have been successful to uncover that fear of failure because it comes up in very weird, in very subtle ways in in our decision making.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, right now, I would much rather make a mistake, start faster and fail faster than not
Mhm.
take action. Every time I do, I learn something that is useful. Let's take, anything we do now in business. Whenever we have a question, we don't know what to do. We just look at the first step we can take. What's the first
Mhm.
step? What question can we ask?
Yeah.
Should we change our question? And then we just take one step, and that opens the door to the second step, and the third, and the fourth. So I
Mhm.
would say just start because that's the only way you can do it. Now, I would also add a disclaimer. I know there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, you got to make X amount of money
Yeah.
in 30 days or 60 days," and it's possible. I have made 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 months without doing much work pretty quickly when I started certain things. But that was because I had prior relationships with people that
Sure.
wanted to start something. And then I've had other projects where for a whole year I didn't make anything. So I would be really careful about expectations. It is possible,
Mhm.
but you do have to hustle a bit more to get right to a few $1,000s to $10,000. And it's usually dependent on the skills you have. And
Yeah.
that kind of takes me to the other model I tend to use when I think of businesses or side hustles. I call it the fast lane fit. But before we jump into that, um, was that helpful? Like, Melinda, would you recommend to people who are afraid of starting to do something else? Like, what have you seen working in people?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to share just quickly my experience. I'm the type of person who I like to see the end in mind. And when you don't see, you don't really know what's going to happen. That's what makes me scared to start. But like you have said, you really helped me with this. It's like you're not going to know what the end is going to look like because you're going to learn things along the way and it's going to radically change it and most likely make it better than what you even thought it was going to be. So just like you said, taking one step at a time because the next step might be different than what, we think we have to have it all planned out. But that second step might be different than what we first thought because of what we learned in that first step. And so just doing the thing that you know to start, I think is just really key. So yeah, like we were talking some side hustles, we see other people just take off with them. And then our own experience could be like, wow, this is harder than I thought. Is there some keys? I think this is what you're going to talk about, some keys that will help us figure out what might make things easier for us as we're starting.
Yeah, I always love the metaphor of journey, of driving, of maps. I've always liked maps. So business, when I look at business, I think in terms of journeys. And yes, when you go, I go hiking in national parks a lot. When we go hiking, you kind of have an idea where you're going. So I think that's a good metaphor for what you shared. And I do. I guess I am a similar type of person. I kind of need to know where we're going, but I've discovered that very often that end goal is very different. Um,
Hmm.
there are many, many, many successful companies right now that started doing one thing that didn't work, but they
Hmm.
had something of value. And I
Yeah.
remember Slack being one of these types of companies. They had something of value, a communication platform that they turned it into a communication. Platform that is generating millions and millions of dollars. So where you start doesn't mean is going to have to be where you end. So be
Hmm.
open to
Yeah.
changing, pivoting, adjusting. But when it comes to um, choosing these side hustles, there are three things or three pillars that make up right the side hustle.
Hmm.
First, you have the person, the business owner. Who you are is going to impact what you should decide. And if we want to find that best sweet spot between who you are, the assets you have, and then the business model you choose. And I guess I'm not the best person to type and talk. So you assets and then the business model. When you think of these three things, by asking some questions about each one of them, you can find that sweet spot, what I call the fast lane fit, because
Okay.
you can go much faster, right? Thinking of the football analogy, how can we leverage what we have and start ahead, like not start at the 0 yard line? Well, by asking these questions about who you are, and when it comes to who you are, I think of this triangle where you have time, skills, and money.
Yep.
So you have the time, um, you have money, and then you have skills. These three things are going to impact what you make. And I would say, even if you feel like you don't have any skills, you probably have some very good skills. They could be intangible types of skills, right?
Mhm.
Talking to people, connecting people. I'm actually talking to someone who knows a lot of very successful people in my area. He is a connector, but he's not quite sure how to monetize that. And my goal is to start doing dinners with investors and business owners in my area, and then we do deals together and we help each other grow. And he's the connector. He doesn't have a successful business, but he wants to partner with me and just bring people in every time. So I don't have to spend this extra time, maybe a year or two, to build a network. It takes time to build a network. So I'm going to
Mhm.
someone who already has the network and say, hey, do you want to partner with me on this? And from there, we'll see, right, where it takes us. So when
Yeah.
it comes to choosing or making a decision on the side hustle you want to start, who are you? What kind of time do you have? Are you only available at night, or let's say at 2 a.m. to work on your side hustle? That's going
Yeah.
to change what you can do or not do. Do
Mhm.
you have any skills like graphic work, sales skills, management skills, research skills? What is it that you bring to the table? Then what are the assets you have? Assets is not just money, even though that matters, because if you have money, you can go a bit faster. You can go to someone who has done what you want to do and just pay them to show you how to do it faster. But assets also deals with relationships, with any
Yep.
other type of capital. We tend to um, minimize again a lot of things we have. There was a study that said that most people have $1,000 worth of um, old used stuff in their house that they could sell on eBay easily. And we don't value them. They're just stuff around the house. But if we were to list it, we would sell it. We would make thousands of dollars, almost all of us. So we always have assets that might feel like trash can assets, right? That might feel like useless assets, but they're actually beneficial
Yeah.
to building a side hustle. And then the business model you choose, there are a lot of different models, and we'll talk a little bit about like the type of vehicle you can choose to build a side hustle. But we so often focus so much on the business. I remember when I started importing from China and then selling on Amazon. So I built an Amazon selling brand, and these were products we put our brand on. So they were our branded items. The model we chose was kind of simple in a way, right? You bring these products, you put them on Amazon, and then Amazon handles 80% of the work,
Right.
processing payments, gathering customers, shipping for us. It was pretty great. That was just one model, right? Now I have a print shop. That's a very different business model. So each model has its pros and cons. At the end, they all have the same kind of ideas. You have a product or a service, you have to sell it, and then you have to fulfill it. But if there's a way, right, to remove some layers of complexity, it's going to be easier for you to make it happen. So these are just, again, big picture concepts to keep in mind as you're looking at side hustles. Then we can go into more practical things, right? We
Yeah.
start again with the concept that's intended to just give people a little bit like a map, right? Figure out
Right.
where am I, and then where do I want to go, and then choose the vehicle that would take you there.
Yeah. Can you just maybe explain some of these different types of side hustle vehicles that you mentioned, some of these models, just, briefly kind of go over those, and then maybe we can talk about what type of person would fit best with each of those.
There are three side hustles, and then the fourth one is a hybrid, is a combination, the initial
Okay.
three. So I'll start with product based side hustles. I call them product based, and I usually focus on physical products when I think of product based side hustles. This is like the vehicle you choose to get where you want. And when you build a physical um, product business, you have to buy product. So a lot of times cash flow is could become an issue. That's what I've learned, right? In importing from China or Japan, we had to buy 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 at a time.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we had money stuck in the product. So cash flow can become an issue. Now, you can start by buying a handful of items in the US and then resell them on these platforms. These platforms have the buyers, and that can work pretty well, and you can make some money within 30 days. However, there are challenges, pros and cons to every model.
Sure.
So the challenge for the product based is the cash flow. It's good for a person that doesn't like talking to people if you sell on platforms that are already established, because
Sure.
you just go to these platforms, you identify products that are already selling, and you become one of the sellers. So you
Hmm.
don't have to create any type of desire in buyers. You don't have to convince buyers. Buyers are already coming to these platforms,
Yeah.
and you just have to be one of the buyers. So there, it's a good starting point for people who don't are afraid of talking to people, of selling their service or
Yeah.
their product. However, it has downsides, right? Because the platforms control what you can do.
True.
So that's a product-based vehicle. When we think of another type of side hustle, a pretty common one is a service-based side hustle. So when you think of a service, it could be a digital service or an offline service. Digital service, video animation, graphic design, web design, writing. Writing is a great side hustle right now because you can use AI and a little bit of skill, right, to create
Hmm.
a lot more content. Email marketing. There are local businesses who need someone to create a newsletter and send it to their subscribers or their clients. And in the newsletter, you write some stuff about the business, and then you do some coupons or some deals, some offers. Email marketing is a side hustle. It would be a service that you would do for the small business.
Okay.
Um, but then there are those service-based businesses that we think in our world, scooping poop. And I think of that because I had a friend who just sold a business, well, 6 months ago. He's been doing it for years, and then he decided to sell it. He was tired of it. And there are people who are going to pay you X amount per month. So you come weekly you go in their backyard and you poop scoop from their backyard. Like you can make money with almost
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Cleaning, pressure washing, auto detailing. Um, I almost bought a business that was repairing
Mm.
windshield
Yep.
chip repairs.
Yep.
And the guy was making about 40 to $50 an hour just fixing windshield chips. So there are all kinds of side hustles. And some of them, with the service-based side hustles, you have to come up with a service you want to offer and then find customers. So
Yep.
that's could be a challenge for people.
Challenge.
But I have seen many people who print some type of flyer. They go all around town. They share it with neighbors, and they build a business. So it's possible, right? It's totally possible to do it. But the downside, right, is it requires time. So if you have
Yeah.
time limitations, if you cannot do the service within the hours they need you to do it, that could be
Hmm.
a problem. If it's a digital service, then that's a different question. So there is a time limitation, and you are exchanging time for money.
Yep.
But the other thing is you have to sell your service. So you have to become more comfortable selling your service. Can you do it? Totally, there are ways to become better at it, but that could be a constraint, right? Again,
Yeah.
people who are maybe better at research, more introverted, might feel like this is not a good starting point for them. And
Mhm.
then you have content-based businesses. Um, YouTube channels, blogging, all kinds of things where you are creating content and your content is generating money. So you monetize the content. Um, I know people who do videos about cars and YouTube
Yeah.
pays them per views. And then brands send them products that they review. They get paid. They get those products for free. They get paid to do those reviews. So you can make a lot of money. There are sites, complete sites that just focus on reviews. All you would have to do is just get these products and create videos or create content. It's usually nowadays is mostly video and written reviews. So if you are uncomfortable being on video, and I have met people who are very uncomfortable, I would say that might not be the right fit for you. If you don't like writing, if writing feels like death to you, this is
Right.
probably not the right type of side hustle for you.
Mhm.
Now, with AI tools, almost anyone can do it. But even reviewing what AI wrote for you would require you, right, to enjoy reading and then editing. So there are certain skills that you need for the content based. Now, a lot of people think, oh, content-based businesses, those are easy. But you also have to bring people, right? You have to have eyeballs looking at the content you
Mhm.
generated.
True.
So you need to know how to generate attention. Someone who has worked in a marketing agency, someone who has had the ability to acquire attention and gather eyeballs. Those are the types of people who are going to do maybe better with the content business.
True.
Again, there are ways, if you really want to start one of these types of side hustles, there are ways to make it easier for you to get it done, even if you don't have the skills. So I don't want people to not start because they don't have one or two skills, but they really want to start something because when we really want to start something, we usually put more effort. We and we find solutions. So wanting to go in one direction versus the other is a good thing. I had a friend who at one point I paid to list some used books for us on Amazon. So we would buy used books, list them on Amazon, make them available for purchase, and then ship them to FBA. And he did it for a few hours, like a couple of days. There were a few, I think a few hundred books. Um, and after he did it, he came to me and he said, I can't do this. Like, I cannot sit in front of the computer for 8 hours. I cannot do it. I need to work with my hands. And he became involved in an automotive service business. So that's right. That's a type of person that
Mhm.
cannot see himself maybe doing a content-based business because that requires you to sit in front of a computer
Yep.
and focus a lot on content. So these are just some basic, right, summary overviews of the different models, and then I call the last one the hybrid. And
Mhm.
again, it's just a combination of a couple of them, right? I can use content to sell a service. As a print shop, I have done that, right? I started creating content to get people into our print shop for a service we offer. Or you can use content to sell a product, right? I can use content, videos, and social media posts to sell some mugs, some t-shirts, some other types of print-on-demand products. And so
Yeah.
you can combine the two. The problem with combining very often is that you have to learn more skills, right? Whenever you
Yeah.
add complexity, you make things harder.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Do you have any advice for someone who's maybe done one, like let's say they're going to do a product and content, but they've only done one of those. Do you have any words of advice they decide to jump in with, something that they haven't tried yet as a hybrid?
Yeah, it always goes back, right? Who you are you? What are your assets or your skills? What's the model you want to build? But I think often of this picture of um, like a hose, a garden hose. If you think of any garden hose, let's say your hose has some kinks, and the kinks are right the things you don't know, the things you need to learn about.
Yeah.
And the water, right? The water flow kind of represents the income you can make. The choosing things that have a lot of unknowns. I mean, everything we do are gonna have unknowns, but if you know from the start, okay, this is going to be extremely difficult for me because I cannot sell for the life of me. I don't know. Like I start to shake when I think about selling. There are some side hustles you have to eliminate, right?
Yeah.
So when you think of the hose, right, each one of these kinks is going to slow down the water. Um, and that's why we talked about the fast lane fit. Always kind of go back. And nowadays, you can go and see what other people who have done it have said, right?
Mhm.
Just listen to the types of tasks they had to do. There's free content almost everywhere. And that's a start point, right? If you cannot afford to pay
Yeah.
for a course is always a little bit of a faster track because at least the person is trying to put more information to give you a bit of a map to speed up your process. But listen to the types of tasks they had to do, and that's going to teach you or give you an idea if this is going to look like this. You know, a garden hose with tons of kinks in it, or it's more like this one, right? You just have one big thing that you have to figure out. Let's say
Mhm.
selling on Amazon. Selling
Yeah.
on Amazon, you have to, there are people who just go to retail stores, Walmart or other retail stores. They find products that are cheaper at Walmart that they can resell on Amazon or eBay for a little bit of higher. We did that with used books actually. We would buy used books on Amazon and other sites. We had a software that would track, right, the prices. And whenever a price went really much lower than the average historical price for that book, we would buy it. We'd buy it, ship it to our house, prep it, send it to FBA. In the last month, we did that. We did that for a few months. The last month we did that, I remember making a little bit over $3,000 in profit. It wasn't very hard, right? Because I knew how to package items. I knew how to send items to Amazon. I used to sell used books in college to make extra money. So for me, all I had to do is figure out how can I find these books on other sites so I don't have to leave my house, buy them, and then resell them on Amazon. The whole process, right, was figured out. I only had to figure out one thing. And we did it. We discovered a software actually that would track prices and compare them to the historical price, right, over the last 90 days, and then we would get an alert. Or we were in the software every couple of days and see, oh, this book is right now $20, but it usually sells for 60. That's how we were able to make quite a bit of money. A lot of the books that were selling for high profits were textbooks. And we made thousands of dollars per month, but I decided, my business partner and myself, we decided to stop it. It was a little bit of a distraction for us. We could do much better with physical products that we bought from overseas. But there was just one thing I had to um, learn to make that work. Like all the other parts of the business were figured out because I already did them. Just one thing, how can I find these cheaper books without leaving the house? So I had a question, I figured out a solution, and we built it into something that was profitable. And then we decided, you know what, this is not for us. Let's find something else. Because guess what? When you build skills, you have more options, more opportunities. And people could say, right, that was dumb. You should have trained someone else to do it for you. And but then I have to use mental energy to track and
Yep.
manage someone else. And sometimes it makes sense to say no to something, one side hustle, to spend more time on another side hustle and then make more money. Making $1,000 to $3,000 per month right now is not very exciting. Like I wouldn't mind making a couple $1,000s extra with very little effort, but it's not very exciting because
Yeah.
I have a couple businesses where my overhead is really high. For me, $2,000 doesn't even pay a very, very small percentage of my monthly overhead. I need to make 5 or 10 or 50K to see a difference in my finances. So we're at different stages in life, and that kind of
Mhm.
determines, right, what we want to choose. And it's okay to say no to certain things because you don't like that model. You've done it for a little bit of time, you don't like it, and maybe there's a better opportunity out there. Whenever you say no to something that's making you money, it's going to be painful for a couple months or maybe 3, 4 months because you just said no to $3,000 coming into your bank account every month. That's going to hurt for a little bit. But guess what? You can take that time to potentially build something else that can make you more money. And you do that when you have options or you have ideas of, or at least your bills are covered, right? You don't do
Mhm.
that when you make no money. You have something that's making you money and you decide, oh, I don't like it. That's not how we do it. We have to be wise, of course.
Yeah,
But we're at different stages. That's why it's
right.
important not to compare ourselves with other people.
Hmm. Yeah, along those same lines, just I think we have sometimes this idea of overnight success. We hear somebody had this idea and it just took off, and now they were able to quit their 9 to 5, and we just really saw their highlight reels. We didn't see all the behind the scenes that went into it and maybe some struggles. And so if they're trying to figure out, okay, it's not happening as quick as I thought it would, do you have any thoughts on just those thoughts, those transitions of trying to figure out, okay, do I stick with this? Do I give it up? Um, is it worth it?
Yeah, there was a study done in a journal. It was about people building muscle. And I
Mm,
don't know a lot about people building muscle, but they had these people who would build muscle in a week or 6 weeks.
mhm.
And it was significant amount. And I might be making this up, but let's say 26 pounds in six
Good.
weeks, like which
Yeah.
was a crazy number. What they discovered by doing the studies is that those people had done it before. So
Mm,
they had this like muscle memory. That's why they were able to do it so quickly, right? They did it in the past. They had in their background some type of work. They were athletes. They were power lifters in the past. Something, right,
sure.
that got
Some
them
sort of
to
experience.
build the muscles.
Yep.
And then some time was lagged between that season and this new season. And then they started
Mhm.
again, and they were able to build muscles really fast. It's because they had the body kind of remember, right, what it means to have that, that much muscle in the body. So it's pretty similar in business. You see these overnight success, right? They
Mhm.
all of a sudden they tried this and it
Right.
was a great success. It's usually because they've done certain things that brought them to this new point where things started to click. Um, it's almost like, right, playing a poker. You have to have 5 cards, right, to have a hand. And imagine you have 3 amazing cards, but you don't have those 2 other cards that you need to make it, a powerful, effective hand to win something. A lot of times we're kind of like that in business, right? We have like 3 or 4 of the cards. We just need that last card, that magic card that's going to make up a really powerful hand. And that's usually when those things align for people, they have the overnight success. But probably they've had a lot of failures. They've done a lot of things before. And then all of a sudden, right, this works. If you look
Mhm.
at the author of Harry Potter,
Yeah.
she was a failure for decades. And then all of a sudden she wrote this book that became very, very popular. She's doing really well right now. It took her quite a bit of time. So I would say to anyone who is thinking about starting or is doing a side hustle right now, keep doing it. If you are looking at every action you make as an experiment, you're learning something from it that's going to compound over time. So those small learnings, if we go back, let me see if I can just start anew. If every day, right, we think of it as we're just improving very, very little, we're doing something better, right? Maybe we change, um, let's take pressure washing as an example. That's a service side hustle. A lot of people do it. if every day I just change what I ask people when I do the service. Let's say that I got a job in a neighborhood and I decide to go leave some flyers or talk to some people around the neighbors and say, hey, we're in the neighborhood, we're doing this person's house. Let us know if you want us to give you a quote, right? So every day we try new things, we do new things, and we don't really see a lot of improvement over time. Right. But then if we keep trying every day, every week, all of a sudden, those small successes start to compound and then we see huge success. Let's say this is the line, right, for money and this is time. It's compounding. If you put a little bit of money, right, every week and every month into a bank account, it's not gonna be significant, right, in the first 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. It's when you get the compounding effect of investing with that money that you see really huge, huge returns. It's the same with business. Um, no matter what side hustle we try, um, we just have to get better every day. And if we see every action as bringing us closer or teaching us something that's going to add to the lessons we learn and all these things added together start to compound, it's going to make side hustles in building business much easier.
Mhm.
So I know people don't, they want a silver bullet. They want this special magic thing that's going to help them. It's just take action and see every result as again like an experiment that gave you the answer to it. Scientists in the lab, and they have a hypothesis, right? I can make money. Let's say it's my hypothesis as a side hustle or as a business owner. In the science lab, they have different hypotheses and they try different things to see can is it true? Can we disprove it? Right? In the business world, I start with I know these side hustles can make me money. Like how can I make it work? So maybe this method would work and it doesn't work as well. Maybe sending postcards to people about the service I offer can work. And then I try it, right, a couple of times. But we have to be consistent in trying things.
Mhm.
And that's some of the best advice. Of course, there are things we can do later on, right, to maximize efficiency. But when we start, that first stage of starting feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just getting over that and going for it. Remembering our why and just the dream of where we're going. I just thank you so much. This has been incredible. You've given us just so many practical ideas of figuring out our personalities and assets and explaining all these different vehicle models of business. And so I just really appreciate that. Do you have any last words of advice or anything else that you'd want to share as well? Or
I think
just
the
that's
best
pretty
word of
good.
advice is just take action, start
Yeah,
something.
start something. Okay.
You can overthink it. I still do it. And
Mhm.
I've built dozens of side hustles now, and I've made money with quite a few of them. I failed with some of them, but I made money with with others. And I still overthink things because that's right, my natural tendency. But just
Mhm.
take action, take action, take action.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, even some of those things that we might consider a failure really isn't because it's a building block to just learning and getting further faster next time. So thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us and being here. If you would like more info and just even a deeper dive on different vehicles of side hustles, check out the details below this video and we'll see you inside.